It is Monday, April 30th, 2018, and this is the Monday Morning Analyst. Welcome, everyone. My name is Luke Thomas. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm the host of this podcast. I really appreciate your viewership. As a small sort of courtesy note, you might hear some construction going on in the house. Hopefully it won't be too bad. I'll do my best to limit it. With that out of the way, there was a big event over the weekend. Bellator 198, Fedor versus Mir took place at the Allstate Arena in Rosemont, Illinois. Very interesting card. All of them finishes, 4 of them by submission, 1 of them, of course, in the main event itself. You have Fedor winning via TKO or KO, whatever they called it exactly. Now, Fedor was the only one who beat somebody with his hands. There was actually a lot of submissions. I thought about going through all the submission finishes, but I don't know there's much of a point to that. It wasn't that there weren't good finishes, or we're not going to discuss them, but there were 2 submissions that really caught my eye for different reasons. Well, some of the reasons are the same, some are different. Point being is, Rafael Lovato Jr.'s win over Gerald Harris was incredible, and then, of course, Dillon Danis getting his pro debut out of the way and winning as well. Now, both of those submissions caught my eye for good reasons. One of them, not so much for bad reasons, but something to monitor along the way. With that out of the way, let's talk about some of the wins on that main card, and in particular, let's take a look at some of the footage from the Danis win, from the Lovato Jr. win, and see what we can determine. Okay, as I mentioned, all of the finishes on the main card were actually pretty great. It was a good night for Bellator. I think we have to acknowledge it. We'll see what the ratings end up being, but we don't really focus on that on this podcast. We just focus on what happened in the cage. And Neiman Gracie had a nice, I believe it was an arm triangle win. Yes, of course. It was an arm triangle choke. His was nice. Emmanuel Sanchez had that arm triangle at the top standing, which was weird because he was kind of slumped off to the side, almost like a half back take, half arm triangle from mount kind of thing. It was weird. I didn't want to focus on those, not because they weren't good, but because one was a little bit on the conventional side, and the other one with Emmanuel Sanchez was one of those just sort of things where that looks to me like something he gets in practice a lot. He probably finds that scoop behind the arm and the head very commonly. And so it's not that there's not value in looking at it, but it's one of those things where it's like very specific to that fighter, which has value. But when you've got an elite black belt like Dillon Danis and an elite black belt like Rafael Lovato Jr., it stands apart. Of course, Fedor had that TKO. If you go back and look at the way he kind of set it up, Frank Mir was lunging in with straight lefts from that southpaw stance. And a couple times he tries it. And the first time he tried it, he actually had success with it. But he kind of went back to the well with it without really setting it up. And then Fedor throws a right hook, which kind of allows him to scoot around the angle, right? And then it's almost like a bull in a matador. You kind of wave the flag, get around them when he came. And so by this point, he's right here with the left, and he just kind of stuck him right here. It was a nice shot from Fedor and a nice adjustment in the middle of the fight. So great job by all those guys. Don't misunderstand me. But as I said, Danis, different. Lovato Jr., when it comes to jiu-jitsu anyway, different, very different. And I want to take a look at their submissions because these guys are special. Dillon Danis is very, 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 very early in his career. Lovato Jr. actually a little bit more advanced than he's been able to show in some of these fights. But nevertheless, let's walk through their submissions a little bit, see how they got it done, and what that tells us about both of these fighters. We're not going to watch the whole thing, but let's start it here at 3:57, and I want to walk through what we're looking at here. So let's just go right into it. You're going to see he just sort of turns a corner, and as he goes that direction, you can see Walker. Look here. Look, Walker kind of tries to shuck him by, and Danis uses that shucking to grab a hold of him and then pull him into half guard, at which point he has an underhook on the other side, which you can see, and then he just sort of uses that left knee to push the hips away, comes over with the right leg, and reestablishes, or I should say fully establishes, guard. Pretty nice job by him to do that, using his momentum from his opponent to go ahead and move things forward. Here's what I want you to notice. This fight's already over. You're going to say, oh, well, he's just in guard. He could have got pounded out. He could have. But there's a couple things here. You know what? Let me just fast forward just a little bit. Let's go through this in real time. Pounding on him here a little bit. And then we're going to go. And this is where I think the beginning of the end comes. Now, hold on. As soon as he opens the guard. There. Okay. Once you get that left elbow and he begins to do this. I see this in elite MMA all the time. Now, I understand Danis' opponent is not necessarily UFC level, but nevertheless, you see this in UFC all the time too. Somebody underneath will begin to frame a different direction, and the person on top doesn't do enough to follow them. I can't believe that happens, but it happens over and over again. If you're on top of somebody and they're beginning to frame a direction, that is red flag city. Red flag city. Now, maybe you trust your defense, okay, but the best defense isn't from here. The best defense is from here. Go ahead and just watch what happens here. He's going to use this he's going to have the overhook. He's going to open his hips underneath, and then you can see Walker kind of reads that armbar coming. Okay, that's great, but I don't know that he cares so much about it. And you can see what he's doing here is he's not just getting to the side of you. He's getting to the side, and he's going to get your weight on top of his shoulders. Look at how high his hips are in the air. He really wants to push you up. And this is why. It's not an armbar. You think you're safe here. Even if there's no armbar here, you're not safe in crossbody like that with a leg underneath. Why? He's going to try and sweep him over. So watch this. You're going to see him try and do this. He's going to use this to sort of kick momentum out, right? He's getting way up under. Look how high his hips are in the air. He's not just turning this direction. He's turning, excuse me if you can see me here. He's not just turning this direction. He's turning and then getting up underneath. Look at that. Look how high his hips are in the air. So now he's going to keep swirling. Look, you can see almost the entirety of Dillon Danis' spine. What is that going to do? That's going to allow him to load weight on the back of the leg and the hamstring here, that right leg to the left side of the screen you see from Dillon Danis. So he's going to use that and that free leg to kick up and out and then bring him over like that. Now watch. You see, look at the red hand there trying to grab the arm of Kyle Walker. He was trying to come up to mount. This is almost like, not exactly, but this is almost, it's not a flower sweep, but it's kind of the same a little bit. But he's going to try and grab that, and he can't. No importa. Doesn't matter. Why? There's two options once someone has you there. One, they're just going to sweep you. They're going to grab that hand, and you're just going to go over, and that would have put him in mount. He would have switched his hips back, and he would have come up on mount, maybe got an arm bar, maybe pounded him out, TKO from there. Who knows? But the other option is you just post your hand as he does here. Look at the right hand of Kyle Walker. It's on the mat. Is it not? It's not good for you. Why? Because a couple of reasons. You're going to post, and when you post, keep in mind, he's already under the leg to initiate the movement. If you go back just a little bit before he gets this push off, right? Come back here. How is Danis grabbing? He's already got that left leg of Walker right next to him. He's going to shove up and try to roll through. Can't quite block the arm to get it, and the guy posts. But here's why that's a major problem. Look at this. Now, what do you notice about Kyle Walker if you're any kind of a grappler? Here's what I notice. Yes, he's basing out, but as I mentioned before, you had a choice by the time he got here on you. You're going to allow him to sweep, or what you're going to do is you're going to think you're defending the sweep, but what you're doing is just setting up everything else. In other words, when you look at this here, what I notice is a guy, I'm going to use my hand here, when a guy bases out here, what he's doing is creating spaces with his legs and his arms and everything else. And mind you, Danis already has that thigh wrapped around right behind the knee. He's already halfway home to the next transition that he needs. So my point being is whenever someone defends a submission, a lot of times they're going to plant their hand to do something. But when they do that, they might leave space between their elbow and their ribs. You can get it. They might post a leg to stop something. When they do that, they're planting that weight, and they're usually creating space underneath it for you to dive under, for you to grab a hold of, for you to then execute the next movement. Always look at that. Always look at somebody defending a submission by planting weight. 99 times out of 100, especially when there's a major skill differential, they'll do it in a way that leaves openings for the very next thing they need to go to, which is exactly what you see here. If you're a grappler and you're looking at this, there is all kinds of room, especially for somebody like Dillon Danis who can invert really well, to just go to the very next thing, no problem. Look at him easily transition and then invert and roll underneath. This is high-level stuff. High-level stuff when he comes under. And my favorite part about it is people like inverting doesn't work in MMA. Now look, he's very early in his career. We'll see how well it does at the highest levels if he can get that far. Look at where that knee is grabbed. And I notice I said the knee, not the leg. He's right behind the crook of the knee. That is such a heavy anchor if you know what you're doing. You can get that elbow all the way across and you can bring it down and you can attach it to yourself. It's too late for you. It's too late. It's not that running away and trying to get out is not a valuable escape mechanism. if you're doing a lot of other things to protect yourself, a lot of limp legging, for example, when someone goes for a single leg. We talked about Edson Barboza. He's got a really good limp leg, for example, in the center of the cage, but he's doing certain things and timing certain things and having grips in certain places to get that leg out and free away. If someone has this deep in on you, trying to just get away will result in this. He's got you by the balls right here. And by the way, look at how he sets up the next move as the guy goes. Here, he doesn't have full control over the leg. He's got a one leg against the hip to slow any kind of movement, but the left leg of Dillon Danis is kind of floating. Watch how he moves it right into position, anticipating the escape. Whoop, one across the hip, and then one across the back of the leg. Now he is in a position, fight's over here. The fight is completely over right here. Again, if there's a skill differential. If you know what you're doing, not necessarily. But look, you got the one leg butterflied by Dillon Danis tucked up underneath. You've got the other one behind him. Why does that matter? Because if you're Kyle Walker, you can't grab anything. You can't really toe hold or ankle lock any of the legs that Dillon Danis has. He has strategically tucked them in all the places where you can't do anything about it. More to the point, look at the left leg of Dillon Danis going across the back of Kyle Walker. What do you notice? It's right up against the knee joint. Why is that important? Because now he can use his hamstrings to just pull you in and close the show. You're not going anywhere, and you can't really attack him. He can also use that leg if he needs to kind of brace away. High level stuff. And the reason why it's high level is that it's effortless. Look at Kyle Walker. There are things you can do to defend yourself here. There's things you can do in every scenario, but you can't, neither leg can be attacked here in terms of any kind of ankle lock. He has essentially protected himself, and he can't come up. Now, this is better to an extent. Toe holds work better when the leg is close to the ass. When the leg is straightened, they don't work as well. So here, it's something he can maybe roll for a knee bar. He has to come over. Watch, he's going to put his weight on top of it. Look at that, ankle by the ear. You see a lot of knee bars here. Ankle by the ear. Nice. I mean, this is just effortless stuff. Effortless from Dillon Danis. Look how high he is on that leg. You're in trouble, bucko. It's going to be a bad day. And here's what's amazing to me. Watch him. He's going to put his weight on top, right? So he's going to plant what looks like his left hand. His right hand now, and he's got his weight. He's got one wrap, and he's going to plant the other hand to come and try to attack the toes. We'll talk about the toe hold in just a second. And he's trying to find it. Now he's having a little bit of difficulty. Why? We can't really tell. It looks like maybe Walker's trying to drive it this way, which makes it a little bit hard to grab. But this only delays the inevitable. You can see Danis, by the way, keeping his head on the mat, keeping his body over the leg, so it's going to be hard to withdraw it one way or push it another, right? It's all controlled. He's got the toes. He's going to push behind him and then around. Watch. Push behind like this, and then look at what happens to his body as he comes around. What does he do? What did I mention? When your leg is straight, you can actually get out of toe holds. But if I bring your ankle close to your body, tap, tap, tap. He gets him right there. Just a switching of the hand, switching of the placement, making sure his body weight. Dillon Danis makes this look effortless. And I grant you, he's not fighting the most skilled opposition. But you should know what you're looking at here is a very, very skilled operator. Dillon Danis is nasty on the ground. He did everything right along the way. Maybe he didn't get the sweep, but okay. He just took the very next thing once the sweep wasn't available and did it with effortlessness. He had everything tightly wrapped, anticipating that if I'll give you a choice, you can go this way or this way, and no matter which way you choose, I'll just take the offensive opportunity that way. Had a couple of slight readjustments, but he made everything look effortless. He tucked himself defensively when he needed to on the feet, didn't take any damage. I grant you, he had an opponent who didn't really exact the most sophisticated ground defense, but for your first time, for your first fight, I think him and his team should be very proud of him and should be very, very excited. How well he does from here, hey, it's anybody's guess. As people defend the takedown or they don't allow guard pulling, we'll see. But it's nice to see somebody use high-level leg locking, high-level guard work, and sweeps to get somewhere in mixed martial arts, even if it's at the very early stages of their career. With that out of the way, let's take a look at Rafael Lovato Jr. Again, we'll move to 4:29 of the first round. We'll jump right into it. This is the point when the knee has been thrown by Lovato Jr., and then he slips. and then Harris tries to get on top. We'll just start right away with look how well he defends the guard passing. You see the left arm kind of tucked under the leg there, and you're going to look at the hands. Watch this, the hands of Lovato kind of cups the sort of side of the arm and then uses that time in between to push away and then square up on him, right? He's going to get inside, push on that knee, comes to the outside, and here he is now facing him. This stuff looks effortless. Trust me when I tell you, the way he makes it look effortless is amazing. It's not effortless. It takes a long time, actually, to get good at something like that. Now look at him. He's got feet on the hips, right? So you're going to see he's just going to start getting to work here. If someone has feet on your hips, even if you're on the ground, that's not as automatically a red flag as someone framing underneath, in my judgment, but it's not good. It means they're setting up something probably, or at least at a bare minimum, establishing the conditions for which they could set up something down the line. Feet on the hips, never a good thing. You always want to kind of fight that if you can. For me, if I was in this position, I'd be getting up and walking away. I would just not play with this guy here. But Gerald Harris, probably was confident, and he's probably gone with very good black belts before, but Lovato Jr. is something different, right? So let's see what he's setting up here. He's got wrist control. Now he's coming around and switching his sides. Look at his core. By the way, I want you to pay attention to the muscles here of Lovato Jr. Why? Because he's not laying on his back on guard. He's crunched. Why? It creates less friction on the small of your back, right? There's less surface area, which will allow you to be more mobile underneath, and plus it allows you to be more engaged with potential guard opportunities, right? So look at that. So he's able to switch sides here. Let's see what he does. And you can see he's blocking the shoulder, the left shoulder now of, the right shoulder of Gerald Harris. He's got that sort of kind of covered there and got both double wrist control. So what's he going to do with it? Let's see. Gerald Harris has pretty good posture. He's letting his arms get out in front of him, which is never a good thing, but doesn't look like a whole lot of danger. And there is no real submission right from this place. Submissions you got to set. So you can see he's beginning to adjust himself. He wants to get on top of his hands and pull them back to him. And Lovato Jr. uses that opportunity to get a high guard. Now, there's no submission here either, right? If you look at this, look at the elbow of Gerald Harris. It's out of the way, and there's no triangle here. But that isn't the point. The point is not to just jump to submission. The point is to establish and climb to a submission, which is exactly what he's going to do. Look at him sort of sink his hips a little higher. Now the feet are crossed. And from a high guard, you can do a lot of things. It's kind of tricky because when someone has a high guard on you like this, you kind of think, well, there's no submission here. Maybe I'm safe. And in a lot of cases, you might be. In a lot of cases, they have a high guard and they don't really know how to use it well. But it's the precursor to an attack. It's setting up an attack. Because if you're really good at a high guard, you can begin to pull posture down. You can easily slide into a triangle. Some people are really expert at it. And you can imagine Lovato Jr. is one of those guys. So now he's pulling his weight up across and on top of him. So before, Gerald Harris was kind of like this. Now he's like this. Look at that. It's going to get a little tighter. You see he tries to resist it, but he still basically keeps going back down. And you can see him try to roll this guy over, right? We're going to go through this. I love this setup from Lovato Jr. Look at the posture of Gerald Harris. He's got his hands inside. There's no armbar. There's no triangle, right? Because you have to have either both hands in to get a triangle, one hand in, or that doesn't work. Two hands in, no triangle. Two hands out, no triangle. But watch what he does here. You can see that his posture is bent over and his trunk is twisted. Why is that important, right? So here's what he's going to do. I love this from him. Check this out. Now look at that. Look at his posture bent all the way over. Once you are here, you are in trouble. Once you are here, you are in trouble. I know a lot of guys think they're not because they can get here with other people in their gym and maybe be okay. But as a general rule, if I had to ask you what is good posture, and Gerald Harris knows the answer to this. I'm not telling him anything he doesn't know. Remember, this guy came in on 3 days' notice, right? So you got to give, he's going against Lovato Jr. and you don't want to panic, and you're coming in on 3 days' notice. You got to be very forgiving of a very talented fighter like Gerald Harris. But nevertheless, he tries to right the posture, and now he can't, right? At least not much, and he doesn't want to because it'd be a lot of strength involved. An arm might pop through. He might give him the triangle. You can see Lovato kind of hunting with that right bottom arm, trying to pull the elbow out. And this is what I love. This is my favorite thing. Keep watching this. This is just great. So here, he squares up on him. And he tries to get that bottom arm, right? You can see this. It looked like he was hunting for a second there. Maybe the triangle, right? Maybe that right arm, and you see that right arm kind of pop through there, right? It's a little bit deep as it was before. And now he looks like he's trying to push away. Okay, he's making an evasive maneuver. That's better. But now the triangle's starting to get tight. These guys haven't, once they get the clamp like this, they have an ability to just bring their legs to their body, and then that brings your body to them. That's what you're seeing here, right? Now he's just going to readjust the triangle. Look at that. He grabs his own leg. He pulls down. He can't quite get it, but if you're Gerald Harris, you have to know you're in trouble here, right? And I'm sure he does because he's taking evasive maneuvers. You see Lovato Jr. trying to soften him up with some of these elbows. This is nice work. Gerald Harris trying to right the ship. He gets kind of flattened here. Look at how far apart. Remember, his shoulders were on top of his hips before. Now look at it. All the way bent over, right? This is just Lovato Jr. doing a great job of his high guard. Not really, throwing submissions at him, but controlling the posture to set up conditions down the line where you won't have the ability. It's not like you're just firing triangles all the time. A lot of people think that if you just sit and guard and a guy fires triangles at you, they're like, oh, he's got a great guard. Well, he clearly has a very mobile guard, and he has a very, very active guard, but I don't know that's evidence necessarily of having a great guard. This, to me, is much better evidence because he's going to push the fight in a direction where by the time you try to escape, it won't matter. That's different than having all kinds of opportunity to escape. And here he is. Now watch this. He finally feels like he's got that bottom arm, right? And he probably realizes there might be a triangle here because now you can see the bottom leg of Lovato Jr. is underneath that left arm of Harris. So if he wanted a triangle, his body's a little bit spaced out to get it. He'd have to scoot back underneath, and maybe that's hard. So he's got that other arm. He was just kind of going back and forth between them. The high guard can be confusing if someone's really good at it. Are you going for an arm? Are you setting up a triangle? Which way are you going to go with this? But this is my favorite. We have talked about this in women's MMA for a lot of times. Why was Ronda Rousey so good at the armbar when she wanted to spin underneath like he's about to? It's because one of the shins has to go on the back of the head. Watch Lovato Jr. He doesn't do that on purpose. Take a look at this. So you see he's setting up here. This is how it would normally go for everybody. Everybody puts this outside leg on the face, and you do want that in a minute. But what you really want is you want to have one leg, the bottom one across the belly, pushing into the belly, and you want the other one on the back of the head. That creates a motion that rolls them over. Watch Lovato Jr. He purposely doesn't apply it because he's going to anticipate if I don't, if you're Gerald Harris, you feel like, he missed. Now I have all the opportunity to try and roll out of this, right? Except as you come up, look at him. He pushes the one leg. Let me just show you something here. This leg across the body is going to trick Harris into making him think this is the one to get off my face. How do you get up? Remember, the reason why people screw this armbar up all the time, as we come back here, right here, where it looks like he's about to do it correctly, is because you want that leg over the face. If the leg does not come over the face like that, they can sit up. You can even take your hand and just put it on someone's forehead, and they're not going to be able to sit up. It's actually that hard, given gravity and mechanics and everything else. So you got to make them do that. My hunch here is that Lovato misses this on purpose, rolls, allows him to think that the bottom leg is the one he has to push off, and then as he sits, he catches him with the free one. How nasty is that? Whoa. Tricked him into thinking he could sit up so he can just catch him with the second one. That is vicious. And watch, once that goes over the top, it's a wrap. It's a wrap. Look at that one more time. This was, folks, you just don't see arm bars like this, even from fighters in the UFC. I mean, this is another level of just brilliance. Remember, he goes from a high guard, right, where he goes from a high guard, he gets the body weight all the way over, decides to not scissor that back leg, comes through. Gerald Harris, in anticipating it, moves the bottom leg, thinking that's the one he needs to get up and around, and then just gets caught not even knowing it's going to be there. Boom. And then it's too late. That is about as nasty as an armbar as you're going to see in MMA. That is brilliant work from Rafael Lovato Jr. Again, you got to give credit where credit is due. Gerald Harris coming on 3 days' notice against a black belt like that, it's going to be a hard hill to climb. And I got to be honest, he would get a lot of very good, very prepared fighters with that. This is what I'm talking about when I say high-level BJJ. It's the kind of thing that you can't train for because you've just never seen it. And you can roll with guys for years and years and years. Lovato Jr. has seen things you can't even imagine. Dillon Danis was nice because he hit all the positions pretty quickly and pretty easily and at a high level and without much adjusting. This was different to me because it was so sneaky, so tricky, so different. But in both cases, well done, gentlemen. Those were nice wins. And last but not least, we take a look at what's coming up in the week ahead, and the answer is nothing. Well, not nothing. Of course, the regional scene will be filled with different shows that you can check out, and I encourage you to do that. Always watch and support regional MMA when you can. But of course, May 5th was supposed to be, as Cinco de Mayo is, typically a big boxing weekend. It was supposed to be the rematch between Canelo and Triple G. It is now going to be Triple G versus somebody who he is probably going to massacre. Which is hilarious because the whole point, at least one major point of anti-doping, is to prevent not really uneven outcomes in terms of fairness by setting up a level playing field, but of course in combat sports to reduce the potential amount of injury that ostensibly performance-enhancing drugs can do, and of course we're going to exacerbate that in the other direction by promoting a mismatch. Neither here nor there. The point being is that if you want to watch Triple G fight this weekend, you can. I encourage you to. He's always a fun fight to watch, but it probably won't be competitive even a little bit. So, if you want to watch that, do it. There's regional MMA to support as well. And that's it. That's all we have today, folks. Nice and short. Appreciate you guys watching. If I got anything wrong, right, if you have any comments, any suggestions, bitches, gripes, and smart-ass remarks, shoot me an email, lukethomasnews@gmail.com, and I'll be sure to take a look at it. Thank you guys so much, and until next time, enjoy the fights.